new breed of mankind is emerging, beings with horns growing from their skull and horrific telekinetic abilities. The few scientists aware of this evolution have deemed it anything but human, exterminating newborns with the genes and hiding a few dangerous specimens away from public view on a faraway island to perform tests and prevent them from passing on their genetic material. But the Diclonius are violent, spiteful creatures, and when one captive, a young woman named Lucy, escapes her restraints, well, this sort of thing happens.
I'll take this, bitch!
Watch out!
Lucy, you got some explaining to do. Before the killer queen can escape to the mainland, a remaining soldier gets in one lucky shot. And Lucy disappears, to resurface as something else.
Hey!
Koda and his cousin Yuka have compassion on their pet jailbait and name her New for reasons that...
What's wrong?
should be obvious, hiding her from the authorities and various malicious parties. Koda can't help but feel that he knows New from somewhere, caring for her in place of his sister who died of illness, but worrying that his feelings for her could run much deeper. And worry he should, as Lucy's bitter and murderous personality has not been buried very deep, and the research team has sent squadrons of trained mercenaries and other more loyal Diclonius to retrieve her, dead or alive. Koda. The question is, will the recovery team find Lucy or New? And will Koda live to learn the truth about his connection to the monster hiding inside the beautiful young girl? On the technical side of things, Elfen Lied's character designs are polished, clean, expressive, and bright, as are the beautifully lit and detailed backgrounds of the series. The moified facial expressions can be a little excessive, but in a way they make the series' extreme content more palatable. It would definitely be harder to watch if the character designs were more realistic, although there is a visceral sadism in ripping apart these much cutesier meatbags as well. It's debatable. In any case, Elfen Lied's clever cinematography and editing covers up the only passable animation budget, much like Higurashi does, but the audio is where the series really shines. Beautiful music, yes, absolutely wonderful score, but it's more important that such a delicate score would be handled correctly. And Elfen Lied has the best use of sound I have ever heard in an anime, period.
Forgive me.
Why?
The music and pervasive ambiance perfectly complements the imagery, and it can make you just pee yourself in fear one second and then bawl your eyes out the next. Elfen Lied means elf song, and it's not clear what this has to do with the show at all, but it is true that the score and sound design here are fantastical works of art. The perfect cherry on this symphonious Sunday would be great acting performances, of course.
Jerk? What are you crying for? You're supposed to be a guy, and guys aren't supposed to cry. Because if you keep crying, I'm going to...
I hope you didn't like cherries. The Japanese track is fairly lackluster from what I can tell, but at least it can carry the series dramatically. Something I really can't say for the dub. Well, Lucy and head scientist Kurama are played quite well, and Diclonius' Nana and Mariko are even better, doubtless the best played roles in the dub. Excellent. Everyone else? It's listenable, but that's about it. Flat, screechy, sometimes very melodramatic, but whatever the problem for any particular character, it's an unnatural-sounding dub, and Koda may be the worst offender. He just downright sounds like he has brain damage whenever he tries to act emotional. Like Higurashi, it's not horrible, it's just kind of lifeless, with the exception of the 4 roles I mentioned. Stick to the sub. As I touched on in my discussion of the music, if there's one thing Elfen Lied has mastered, it's tone. As a horror title, Elfen Lied does go overboard with the gore and sexual content. Yeah, a lot of that really wasn't needed. But the terror itself comes from a more sophisticated place. Innocent characters, not only Koda and Yuka, but many other good people, always feel a moment away from a horribly violent death with Lucy in the house, and trigger-happy psychopaths like Bondo pursuing her and not caring who gets hurt in the process to add to that. At the same time, you can't help but feel for this other Lucy, New. However false a personality she may be, it proves she has weaknesses she wants to escape to, and the other Dicloniuses that the research team abuses and arguably makes into the demons they are much the same.
I wanted to thank you. So thank you.
The flip-flop between fear of these horned, pink-haired girls and heart-rending sympathy for them is just perfect, almost too perfect, to a degree where the emotional manipulation makes you want to reject the show outright for screwing with your presumptions about these villains. Or are they sometimes heroes? Whatever the case, Elfen Lied's insane popularity is certainly tied to two factors: the incredibly explicit content and the mastery this show has over emotion. The problem with this? Well, look at what we've got here. One half horror, one half moe drama. A combination of what tend to be the two most emotionally provocative and poorly written genres in anime. And I'm very sad to say it's not an exception to those generalizations. I wanted to like Elfen Lied, I really did. I mean, on the surface, it's a well-made show, and I can't emphasize that enough, because under the surface, the story, characters, even the themes are a mess. I can forgive some of the hanging plot threads as they are. They seem to be hungering for a sequel that will probably never come, but it's the hanging characters I just can't forgive. Over the course of 13 episodes, Koda adopts a few more girls into his house, and we meet several researchers along with the mercenary Bondo, spending a good amount of time with each of them. And how many of these characters do you think ultimately matter, like, at all? I would say 5, including one character that's only around for 3 episodes. Yuka, Mayu, several female scientist characters, and even Bondo, who you'd think would be a really interesting villain, spend their entire series run spouting exposition and never developing into anything realistic. With the exception of Bondo's foul language, you could easily exchange one character's lines for the other. They lack voice, and they don't contribute to the plot. Why would they do this? Because this is a beautifully shot, but not very well written story. Anything you learn about the characters has to be spoken through the mouths of other characters, sometimes repeated several times.
It's as if Koda could tell that society had abandoned us. She understood. She knew the seashell made you sad.
Huh?
Now I understand. Your personality was split and now you're...
Elfen Lied really does not want you to think about what you're watching. Everything's spelled out for you in a completely unnatural fashion, because if you used your brain for even a moment, most of the emotional climaxes of the series would be exposed for morally repulsive, irresponsible, and entirely stupid negative decisions on the part of most characters, played off as these really beautiful sacrifices. Listen close in those last few episodes and think about what's being said. I swear I'm not pulling this all out of my rear. Elfen Lied is all slosh and pathos and very little depth or meaning. I think most of this can be chalked up to a really bad case of manga deterioration, but even so, the source itself is manipulative, gratuitous. It's sophomoric smut, and no amount of blood, boobs, and beautiful music can change a teen melodrama into something more mature or profound. It is what it is, but I really wouldn't take it very seriously. It is a fantasy horror soap opera. Elfen Lied is available from ADV Films. Or whatever they're calling themselves now. The original manga by Lin Okamoto has not been released stateside, and neither has the ecchi comedy OVA created after the series run in place of a more suitable ending. Read the manga, I suppose? Who were those people? All in all, Elfen Lied takes a brilliant idea with deeply moving undertones, haunting imagery, and impressive animation and music, and gives it the new treatment. retarding it down to a soppy and gratuitous melodrama rife with irrelevant plot threads, extraneous characters, and morally repugnant messages dressed up as pathos. It's still worth a look as a horror title, yes, but dramatically it sinks to such manipulative schlock that I have to give it 2.5 intestinal smatterings.
She's acting a little strange. Do you think she's...
Yuka!
Out of 4.